Hey guys, I know I said I would do scripted videos next, but I thought today would be cool if I would just, I thought it would be cool if I just talked about something that a lot of reviewers do once or twice on their channel, and that's just compiling my favorite films. Um, and I thought it would also be cool if I renewed this list every few months. So I'm gonna upload this one today, my top 15 favorite films, and I'm going to um, look back on it in like 6 months' time, a year's time, something like that, and see how different my list is. I'm actually curious to see if my list is going to be much different, but I couldn't rank them. I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't rank my favorite films. I've done it before, but I think that on the internet, online, publicly, talking about my favorite films, it's very difficult to tell you guys which one I think is slightly better than the other. They're all 10 out of 10s for me, all these 15. I was gonna go top 10 as well. I was gonna narrow it down to 10, but I couldn't do it. I had to pick 15, and um I have five honorable mentions as well, and I'll just name them, get them out of the way, because I don't have enough time to talk about all of them as well, or else I'll be here for hours. So my honorable mentions are Django Unchained from 2012, Audition from 1999, American Beauty from 1999, Before Sunset from 2004, and American History X from 1998. These are my honorable mentions. Five honorable mentions. They made the top 20, but I don't think that these films are quite as good as the ones in my top 15. But if you ask me tomorrow, I'd probably change it around. Um, so yeah, that's why I'm making my list now. I'm not gonna rank them because that would be torturous. The more I think about it, the more I like one film over the other, and then I'll think to myself, oh, but this film has this scene or this actor, and I need to put that above this film, and then I'll just think, oh, but I actually enjoyed watching this film more than this one, and it'll just be a fucking nightmare. So just gonna get right into it. I'm gonna start with I think I should start with A Clockwork Orange from 1971. Now again, I couldn't rank all these, but at one point, Clockwork Orange was my favorite film. Um, yeah, Clockwork Orange is my favorite of Stanley Kubrick's, and it's just one of my favorite films of all time. Um, for those of you that don't know, it's a film about this teenager and his gang of droogs, as he calls them. They go around and they assault people and kill people, and they're essentially practicing their free will in this dystopian world that the film has created. And the second half of the film is about his institutionalization, where he gets locked up and he says, "Oh, I want to be a better person." So he goes off and he does this very extreme form of rehabilitation. So it's a very interesting film. Um, it's weird as fuck. It is extremely, extremely weird. Um, it might be the weirdest film I have ever seen in my entire life. Um, it's just so abstract and it's so odd. Like all the characters have this language that they speak. I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but they use these like slang words to each other, and Stanley Kubrick just has a way of set design. He was a genius. He was way ahead of his time, and in this film, it really captured that feeling of dystopia. It was really fantastic what he did with this film, and I think the reason why this film stuck with me is because the central character is just so detached from what he's doing. He's such a monster, but he takes pride in that. And Malcolm McDowell, he really perfected Alex DeLarge's character. I think another reason why I love this film so much and why I'd add it into my top 15 even today, 2 years after having seen it for the first time, I would say that it's because I read the novel by Anthony Burgess, and that novel was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was almost as good as the film. It was a lot more complex, and it at times it was a lot. It was actually quite more explicit and graphic than the film, which is very surprising to me still. But I enjoyed both of these works, and I think I put the film in slightly higher regard, and it's just one of my favorites of all time. It's a personal favorite, and I know that a lot of people love this film as well. It's just got a soft spot for me. It's not the easiest film to watch, but it's a dark comedy at its core, in my opinion. Like when I first watched it, I thought it was a more of a thriller, but the more I think about it, it's a dark comedy. It's an extremely dark comedy, and I love films like that. So next up, we've got Mystic River from 2003, and I think I'm gonna be making videos about all these films separately at one point. Mystic River, I think, is one that I have to make a video on because there's so much I gotta say about this film. This is a Clint Eastwood directed film, and I think it's his best. I think it's the best film that he's ever been involved in. Um, yeah, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is not as good as Mystic River, in my opinion. Mystic River is so valuable to me. It is a film about what is it a film about? I can't even put it into words. It's just such a sentimental, beautiful, but horrible film. Um, it's so intricate, it's so detailed, but it doesn't show a lot. It has this big branching story that the viewer comes to learn about as the film progresses, and it's so intense without really having much before the climax of the film. It's just so it's just so gripping. It takes you by the throat, and it throws you into this horrible Shakespearean story. Like it's not primarily a Shakespearean story. It's got a Romeo and Juliet like romance in the first few minutes, um, and then the film takes that away, and then you're like, oh shit, who murdered this person? What? Who did it? Why would they do it? And I mean, I love murder mysteries. I always have. It's always been one of my favorite subgenres. But Mystic River not only provides a really compelling murder mystery, it also provides some of the best performances I have ever seen in a film. I genuinely can't tell if Tim Robbins, Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, I can't tell which one of those three did a better performance. They all play such different characters, and the whole concept of moving on from your childhood, transitioning into adulthood through trauma and um, through trauma and like guilt and looking back on your past and reflecting on it all. I'm probably just rambling at this point. I just love this film. I thought everybody in the cast put the maximum effort they could. Um, it's it just keeps you wondering. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? And then it drops it all on you, and you're like, that makes so much sense, And I love films that can do that. And the whole theme of childhood, the first parts of childhood in the film, yeah, I thought it was haunting how these characters grow up around each other, but they're so different. They're so broken down, and yeah, Mystic River is one of the most overlooked films I have ever seen, and I think I have to make a video on it to fully articulate my points. A scripted video, because when I'm put on the spot like this, I am not very good at detail. So let's move on. But still, Mystic River, check it out if you haven't. Boogie Nights from 1997 is my favorite of Paul Thomas Anderson's films, and it's a film about um, it's a film about pornography. It's about these people that they work in the pornography business, and it's also a film about greed. I think it's about ambition. Um, it's about family. It's about friendship. Not as much friendship. It's about a family of friends, more like. Um, I just thought that this film is so unbelievably perfect at so many different things. The soundtrack is just unbelievable. The soundtrack is so good at portraying this time in history. Um, it's really funny. It's kind of like a Clockwork Orange in that sense, where it's hilarious at times, but at other times it's just one of the most intense, dark films I've ever seen. Boogie Nights is so good at doing that. When I watched it the first time, it was like a roller coaster, and even rewatching it, knowing what will happen, it still really catches me off guard because you see all these people and they're having a great time, and then one of them fucking dies like mysteriously. Well, not mysteriously, it's one of them dies like really brutally, or they get themselves into this really horrible situation, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Um, by the end of this film, after nearly 3 hours of runtime, it it really took my breath away. This is a wet dream for film nerds like me. It's just, again, the set design in this film is just unbelievable as well. It's so vibrant, it's so colorful, it's so it's so well made. It is just one of the greatest films ever made, and probably Mark Wahlberg's best performance. But I'll get to that in a bit. Next up, we've got from the year before, Jerry Maguire from 1996. Now, um, what do I say about this film? This film is about a sports manager who, I mean, it's Tom Cruise, so he's very charismatic. He's very, eccentric. Um, he's very extroverted, very popular amongst his peers. Um, but then, as the film progresses, it took a path that I didn't see coming the first time I saw it, and I really appreciate it. It's a film essentially about this guy who prioritizes work, he prioritizes his career, and the film prioritizes the career based segments of this film where he's talking to his clients and stuff like that. But it takes a route where he learns that human connection, his feelings towards people, the people that he loves, is the most important part. I think the tagline or one of the subtitles of this film is "The journey is everything," and you see Tom Cruise's character as he learns that, well, he did love this person that he fell in love with throughout the film, and this client that he made really is one of his best friends, and yeah, he needs to prioritize that over his career. And I thought that was just fantastic, and it has some of the most iconic lines in any film ever. It's really funny. It's still really funny. Um, Soundtrack is also brilliant, I thought, and yeah, it is my favorite romance film of all time, just because it tricked me into thinking this was a film about sports, but it wasn't. So yeah, it's one of the only films that successfully tricked me and like actually dumbfounded me by how emotionally devastating of a film this is. It's not like one of the saddest films I've ever seen, but it just really connected with me on an emotional level, and films like that will always have a special place in my heart. So Jerry Maguire has to be in the top 15. Next up, we've got Old Boy from 2003. Now, what do I say about Old Boy? Old Boy is probably my favorite Asian film of all time. Asian films, some of the highest rated Asian films are, some of them are just objectively better than some of the highest rated American films. Like over there, some of the films are incredible. But Old Boy is just my favorite. I made a review of this film on Letterboxd. I couldn't, if I tried to talk about everything in this film, I would just fail because there's so much to say. It's so original. It's so action packed. It's so funny, but it's so dark at the same time. It's got this classic hero versus villain plot line. It's got this mysterious side character or side protagonist, this girl. And it immediately puts you into this compelling position of this character who's put into a prison essentially for 15 years, and then he's released and you're like, what the fuck just happened? What why was he there in the first place? Why was he let go? It makes the viewer ask so many questions. And despite everything being given to you, I don't think that you could guess the plot twist of this film in your right mind. You couldn't. And it makes so much sense. This film is just riveting. It is so sad. It is so horrible, but at the same time, it is so funny. And I never want it to end when I'm watching it. It's so seamless when it transitions to a different segment of the film and it transitions to a different scene. The soundtrack is just so, it just flows through the film, and all of these performances, especially from our main actor Choi Min Sik and this villain Lee Woo Jin, these two characters just pitting against each other. Their relationship is just so crazy. It is, yeah, it is one of my favorite films of all time, and that's not going to change. I think that Old Boy is always going to stay in the top 15. It's just unbelievable. Um, Next up, we've got Seven from 1995. Sorry. Seven is my favorite of David Fincher's works, and this is another film where I just think that everything about it is pretty much perfect. You've got this insanely bleak atmosphere. You've got these two detectives, kind of like what's it, Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Like you've got the rookie cop who's really ambitious, and you've got the aged, more veteran cop, and they're both trying to figure out who this serial killer is in this absolutely horrible environment. Um, and you can see the relationship build between these two detectives. You don't see the serial killer himself until the climax of the film. Um, the investigative portions of this film are absolutely incredibly entertaining to watch. I find this film so entertaining, even though it is so bleak and horrible and dark. Um, because when you first watch it, at least when I first watched it, I thought I understood the plot. You've got this serial killer who's going around, he's killing these people, 7 people. They each represent one of the 7 deadly sins. And every time you see one of those crime scenes before you see the victim, you're like, oh shit, what's it going to be this time? How horrible is it going to be? And it gets pretty bad. The implications in this film are probably my favorite part. The implications of what happens to these people are just so horrible and so disgusting, but it's effective. It's more effective than showing it, because if it showed me everything, I'd be like, okay, well, that's a dead body. But the film doesn't show you, and instead it fucks with your mind. It puts this information into your head about what happened to these people, and then you have to create an image yourself, which is much worse in my opinion. That is some scary shit, and Seven pulls it off really well. And obviously, I mean, the last third of this film is just, if you haven't seen Seven, just watch it, please. It is, the last act of this film will blow you away. You won't see it coming, I don't think. Um, it's just so masterfully done, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite films, and it's one of the greatest detective films ever made, if not the greatest. Next up, we've got Pink Flamingos from 1972. Um, this is a comedy. It is a comedy. It's really funny. It's one of the funniest, if not the funniest film I've ever seen. But it's also one of the most disgusting. It is one of the most foul, and it is one of the most gross films I have ever seen as well. It's about this drag queen and her family, and they're trying to compete against this couple of human traffickers to be awarded as the most filthy people alive. And I just find that concept so funny, but also so effective at making you go, "Oh God, that's gross. That's disgusting." Um, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm thinking about one particular scene every time I talk about this film. There's one scene that just comes to mind, and if you know what it is, you know what it is. Pink Flamingos is brilliant. It is so funny, and it pushes the boundaries of what should be acceptable in comedy. But those are my favorite kind of comedies, the ones that go "fuck you" to common sense. So yeah, Pink Flamingos, 1972. Check it out if you have the balls to, because it still holds up in terms of how disgusting it is. I mean, it's not unbelievably disgusting, but it is disgusting. Don't eat food while you're watching Pink Flamingos. Um, Next up, we've got Funny Games from 1997. Funny Games is a German film, so I'm a bit biased because I'm half German, but still, this is one of my favorite films. It follows a German couple as they're going to their like holiday home by a lake. I don't even know if it's a holiday home. It might be just a summer home, whatever. And they've got their younger son, and they bring him into the house, and they're all having a good time. They're unpacking all their stuff, and then these two fucking creeps show up in the same white outfit, and they begin terrorizing this family in increasingly brutal ways. And this film covers time manipulation with these guys, which I just find genius. How this film takes time manipulation, like through a TV remote. Taking that theme and putting it into a film is fucking genius. It is one of the creepiest films I have ever seen. It is probably the creepiest film because these guys, they break the fourth wall and they start talking to you, and they're like, "Oh, do you want this to happen to these people? Why are you watching this film if you don't want them to suffer so horribly?" It's a critique on how we take film violence like for granted. Well, not for granted, but the way we perceive film violence. This film talks about that. Um, and just thinking about it actually gives me shivers. It is fucking horrifying. I love this film. I don't know how willing I'd be to watch it again, but it is just masterful. Every single scene of this film had me on the edge of my seat, and I loved it. Um, Next up, we've got a completely different film, My Neighbor Totoro from 1988. This film is just so happy. It's so unbelievably cheerful. It's an adventure, really. It's an adventure between these two kids as they as they run around their new house and their new home with these creatures, and it's just one of the most rewatchable films I have ever seen. It's so charming. It's so cute. Um, just watching these little girls, they're running around and they make friends with giant furry creatures. Um, it really is a magical film. It's not even really got a plot. It doesn't even have a villain. It doesn't even have like a protagonist really. It's just these kids being kids having fun. And I think My Neighbor Totoro does that concept the best. And I grew up with this film as well. I watched it from a very young age, and I've watched it almost every year. And it's just a beautiful film. The soundtrack is unbelievable as well. It really encapsulates the joy of being a child. Um, and I love it. It's one of my favorite animated films. I think it is my favorite animated film. It's the only one on this top 15. But next up, we've got Happiness from 1998. This film isn't talked about a whole lot, but it's got Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I think it's his best performance. It's essentially about these people, these very troubled people, um, who aren't necessarily very good people, especially one in particular that I'll get to. These people are essentially lacking human connection. They're lacking relationships that they want. They don't feel complete. They don't feel like themselves. Um, it is difficult to describe this film accurately because it is extremely uncomfortable. It is extremely realistic, and it is extremely emotional. These characters are all so. Many viewers will probably see themselves in a few of these characters, and that is sad. That's really sad because even though this film is called Happiness, it's not about happiness. It's about the pursuit, the desire for happiness, um, which pretty much very few of them achieve. um, and yeah, it's basically about these people chasing after happiness, and it's just one of the most brilliant films I've ever seen. And one character in particular is a pedophile, and the film brings humanity to his depravity, um, which is one of the darkest things I've ever seen put to film. It is so dark when you know what this guy is up to, but it is so well made. It is so effective, and it's a film that I want to check out again. Next up, we've got The Room from 2003, starring Tommy Wiseau. What do I have to say about this film? I have to make a video on this one as well. um, it's one of the worst films ever made, but it's one of my favorites. So I'm just gonna move on. I'm gonna make a video on that. We got Jaws from 1975, which is also just one of the most brilliantly made films ever made. It's about these guys. They're going off to chase a shark that's terrorizing their beach town, and it's a perfect film to watch during the summertime. But it's also still genuinely scary. It's an effectively scary film, and it's just so gripping. It's one that I'll watch endlessly forever. The soundtrack, the Jaws jingle or whatever it's called. I don't know. That shit kept me up at night for a few years. The first person perspective through the darkness of the water as it goes slightly brighter, and then you see the silhouette of a human, and you're like, oh fuck, you better watch out. Yeah, still scary. Next up, we've got The Departed from 2006. I also have to make a video on this one. It's just the cast is unbelievable. You've got Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon and Jack Nicholson and Alec Baldwin and Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's performance in this is almost as good as in Boogie Nights, mostly because of how unexpectedly good of a character he is. He plays the tough guy, arsehole cop. He's always slagging everybody. Um, so yeah, this film is really funny at times. The use of excessive language is just so funny to me. I'll still quote some of the lines in this film to this day. But it's also just such an intense cat and mouse type um, police drama film, thriller, mystery film. It's so many different things. I love The Departed. Soundtrack's great. Um, yeah, I'll also make a video on this. I'm gonna make a video on most of these movies. Next up, we've got The Shawshank Redemption from 1994. What do I have to say about The Shawshank Redemption? It's about friendship, forgiveness, redemption. Um, yeah, it's about so many different things. It's one of the most beautiful films ever made, and it's one of those films that I just put in really high regard because it's the highest rated film on IMDb for a reason. It just covers so many different parts of humanity, so many different relatable parts of humanity, and it basically told me that you shouldn't give up on your dreams. In Andy's case, it's breaking out of this prison. In my case, it could be a few other things, you know? For other people, it could be a few other things. You can use that analogy of breaking out of prison and staying consistent with it for years and years at a time. You could use that analogy for basically anything, any goal you want to achieve. And this film is just beautiful. It's one I'm going to keep watching forever. And lastly, we've got No Country for Old Men from 2007. Cormac McCarthy is my favorite writer. He's written Blood Meridian and The Road, which are two of my favorite books. But No Country for Old Men, the film, has no soundtrack. It is unbelievably intense. It's about this race for this amount of money in a briefcase. But that's not all it's about. It's also about this villain who is, in my opinion, the protagonist. The more I think about it, he is chilling. He's the most horrifying character I've ever come across in a film, um, because you can't expect what he's going to do next. So yeah, No Country for Old Men is haunting. It's also really intense. It's riveting. It puts you down into this plot, and it makes you sit through it, but you don't want to stop watching because every single scene introduces something new, and you're like, "Whoa, what's happening here?" You got all these people, they're dead, and there's a bunch of money at this tree, and then he picks up the money, and he walks away, and he tries to get away with it, and then you find this villain, this absolute indescribably horrible, relentless human. I guess I don't know if he's a human or not. I have to discuss that in another video as well. He goes around and he's trying to find this guy and all this money, and then you've got this cop, this sheriff who's trying to find both of these guys and you know put some justice into the situation. Yeah, it's just one of the most brilliantly made films of all time, and it's super simple. It's really simple. It's got a lot of philosophical things you can look into. It's Cormac McCarthy after all. Like, I mean, you could break down and analyze this film forever, but at its core, it's a very simple tale for people who just want to watch a film for entertainment. And I think No Country for Old Men is one of my favorite films of all time. So yeah, I couldn't rank these accurately. Sorry for that, but these are my 15 favorite films and those 5 honorable mentions. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll have my Letterboxd account down below. If you watched this whole thing, thank you. You're an absolute legend. So yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.